Hi, I'm Paul J. Aguilar, news editor at The Vidette, the student voice of Illinois State University and a reporter for WGLT. Welcome to Democracy's Future, a joint project between The Vidette and WGLT News. We hear from the students who will help chart the future of our democracy. On this episode of Democracy's Future, two students who attended a civic engagement trip to Washington, D.C. last June share their experiences there along with what they learned about the federal government. ISU senior political science major Lydia Root and junior political science major Tiana Ziegler discussed their key takeaways from the trip, focusing on how what they learned impacted them as aspiring women in politics and how it related to their family histories. First, Lydia Root outlined some of the places they visited.
We went to the Holocaust Museum as well as the Museum of African American History. We also visited Capitol Hill. We went and visited a few representatives from representatives' offices as well as the Senate. So we went to Capitol Hill and did a tour. We also went to Arlington National Cemetery. I think that was something that me and Tiana both got a lot out of.
Of all those places, what was your favorite spot that you saw?
Honestly, I would say Arlington National Cemetery. You know, I'm the daughter of a veteran, as is Tiana, so we both have a connection there and feel very strongly there. And it was really, really cool to be able to see such a place of remembrance.
Who's the veteran in your family that you speak of?
Yeah, so my father was in the U.S. Army, yes.
Tiana, how about you? What was your favorite place that you guys visited?
I think mine was also Arlington Cemetery and then visiting the Iwo Jima statue, which was the Marine Corps. My dad also served in the Marines and is a veteran, so it was very cool to see and hit close to home. So
overall, what would you say was the most interesting or shocking experience that you had in DC? Lydia, you can start.
I would say one of the most interesting things we did was we visited the Gallup headquarters. They are in charge of a lot of the public opinion polling that we've seen since the 1930s. It was very interesting to see what kind of things they survey Americans on month to month. And I was very interested to see as well the representative that was speaking to us. He was able to keep a very neutral stance despite our speculations on why certain things polled the way that they did. He was able to just be like, yeah, see, these are the numbers. We don't speculate. It was very interesting to see like just the data analytical side of political science.
What were some of the surveys that you saw that surprised you?
Things about like household and the housing market. I think we saw that there was like an increase in like the price of homes, and I think interesting was also to see the perception of like how things are versus how Americans view them, especially in terms of crime. In recent years, crime has actually gone down, but to Americans, they see it as crime has gone up. So those discrepancies were very interesting to talk about and discuss with the Gallup representative.
Tiana, how about you? What was the most interesting or shocking experience that you had?
I liked when we went to, was it Maryland? We took the metro up to Maryland to visit the DAI and ATI, which is Africa Trade Investment. It's a panel of women, all 5 women, and we basically got to speak with them about what they do and what they do with Africa. And they basically just talked about their business inquiries and how they are able to provide water and get water back to Africa and what their next steps of the future are, and that if we want to pursue a career in this, what we can do to help them. So that was also really cool.
What sorts of opportunities did they offer? Things like internships or jobs?
Internships, paid internships, and then if we were to stay, they would offer us a job as well.
Was there anything like especially enlightening or beneficial that you guys think you learned above anything else on the trip? Lydia, you can start.
Yeah, we actually met with Corinne Wheeler. She is an ISU alum, and she is the scheduler for State Senator John Tester of Montana. and she put together a team of all women, because it was all women who went on the trip. So it was very important for us to speak to women that are working on Capitol Hill, and it was really beneficial to hear about their different experiences, what they did in their undergrad, the kind of opportunities that they explored as internships, and just hearing the all different kinds of backgrounds that they come from. I remember one person, her major was like French music, and it was just really interesting to hear about their pathways and how they got to Capitol Hill.
Were there any other standout testimonies that you had heard about how somebody actually like got to where they are that like really stuck out to you, that inspired you?
I think there was a person at the DAI place that we went to, and she had said that it was something that her whole family had done. And so she kind of got the job just by growing up around it. But like through, like she's kind of had to navigate during her time at DAI. And she has slid into a bunch of different fields and somehow ended up on the Africa group. And she was talking about how, even though she kind of had a leg in, it also took a lot of navigation on her part to decide what her passion was.
Tiana, we'll move to you then. Was there anything specifically enlightening or beneficial that you learned on the trip above all else?
I would say also going to Senator John Tester's and meeting with Corinne. I was able to talk with one of the women on the panel, Laura, she is a licensed attorney, but she's not attorney for John Tester. She is I
think it's like legal counsel.
Legal counsel. So it was really cool to hear from her, and I was able to get her business card, and she offered to help any of us if we need recommendations or in our path in the next few years, if we need help with anything, to let her know. So that was really beneficial just to hear from her and what she did to kind of get there. So
did this trip provide a lot of opportunities to make like connections like that, connections that you can then go to later on? Lydia, we'll start with you.
Yes, for sure. We were able to get business cards from a lot of people, including ISU alum. It was really neat to see the network that ISU has, even in DC. And it was really cool to just meet people and hear about their backgrounds.
Tiana, how about you?
Yeah, I would also say business cards, and then also meeting with all the House of Representatives. Yeah, I think that's about it. That's all connections.
Did you guys have the opportunity to ask anyone that you came across, like personal questions having to do with your own growth and sort of your own career path, about like what advice they might give to you? Lydia, we'll start with you.
Yeah, especially in that all-female panel, we were able to ask them, what kind of discrimination have you faced as women? One woman, she said that she was kind of like the financial aspect of John Tester's team, and she talked about how sometimes she's in male-dominated spaces, and how she has to, try to speak above them to make her ideas heard, and how oftentimes like her male colleagues would take credit for the things that she came up with. It was very interesting to hear about how they navigated the sphere, but overall I would say most of the women had pretty positive experiences on Capitol Hill. They talked about run-ins with ego and learning how to play into the political game, but overall they felt like finding the right team for you can be very beneficial in finding a place that you want to stay on Capitol Hill, and finding a environment that fosters growth.
Tiana, what would you say to that?
Yeah, I would say the same thing. They basically just told us to speak up in environments where we don't feel heard and to never back down. So,
is there anybody famous that you guys saw or recognized while you were there?
I don't think we ran into anybody, but we did hear that Michael Phelps was there while we were there. But we did not see him. Tiana and I actually walked the entire length of Capitol Hill. Don't recommend doing that. It took us a very long time. But we did see the senators wear a specific pin on their shirt. So we were able to see a senator and like look him up and be like, oh my gosh, we passed him on the street. So that was a really cool experience.
So is this a trip that you would recommend that other students attend if they get the chance?
I would just say that Washington, D.C. is a very different kind of city. Civic engagement really does appear to be embedded in the very soil of Washington, D.C., and it's very exciting to be there, especially this year with the election. It was a very, very cool atmosphere, and I think it got us excited for the future of America and like what people our age are doing. That was something that was pretty shocking to see, was a lot of the staffers were our age. And just seeing that, yes, it may appear that a lot of the politicians are older and of a different generation than us and may not understand us, but behind the scenes, there are young people that are our age that are working and helping everything go smoothly on Capitol Hill.
How will you guys use this experience to help further your career paths and your goals? I'm going to start with you, Tiana.
So while I was there, I would say what I took away from everything, I decided to come home and I decided to pick up a double major. So that's why I decided to double major. And I wanted to pursue immigration law, but now that I went on this trip after, I do want to look more into representing even the House of Representative, a senator, or even working in the White House as an attorney, like something big.
How about you, Lydia?
Yeah, I would say prior to the trip, I had a very limited scope of what kind of political science careers they are. I've worked on a campaign locally. I know, lawyers and things like that, but I don't think I understood also the private business, the other side to the public sphere. There is like that private, like contracting, like we were saying with the DAI, like there are groups that the government works with that don't necessarily mean you have to like be on Capitol Hill and have the stress of that environment all the time. You can choose something that's maybe a little bit more consistent and do something that you are able to actually still make a difference and work with the federal government, but it is still that private contracting. So I think that is something that I am looking into for my future career goal.
How does this experience impact your guys' view of democracy? I can start with you, Tiana.
I would say democracy as we know it is dependent on civic engagement for its strength and its growth. And I think we saw that in Washington, D.C., and I believe that more than ever after going on this trip. Yeah, we can sit in a classroom and learn about government and learn about democracy all we want, but without seeing the real world applications and the implications of democracy, I think our educational experience is not fully fulfilling. So I think it is important for any student who is looking to pursue a career in public service to experience, Washington, D.C., and the kind of operations that come out of there. So yeah, I would say for sure it has changed my view of democracy in a way of strengthening it.
And I think that we can all say that of all of us going on this trip, civic engagement was more about building the relationships that were there, and that personally I learned more about civic engagement and democracy on this 7-day trip than I have ever learned on 2 years at Illinois State. So.
Very nice, thank you.
That was Tiana Ziegler and Lydia Root from ISU's Political Science program, talking about their civic engagement trip to the nation's capital over the summer. In our next episode, we'll discuss South Asian representation in the Bloomington-Normal area ahead of the upcoming election. Our thanks to audio producer Bren McMonigal, WGLT Digital Content Director Ryan Denham, and WGLT News Director Eric Stott. Please give us your feedback on this series and let us know if there are certain issues you'd like us to explore. Email us at news@wglt.org. Subscribe to Democracy's Future on the NPR app or wherever you get your podcasts. Until next time, I'm Paul J. Aguilar. Thank you for listening.